I wanted to take this job because not often a part comes through where you don't feel like you have to pretend. It felt quite natural to play her. I think they've made a character that a lot of people will relate to.
Sure.
Sure, Jan.
She was kidnapped from my town by your men. You murder. You kidnap. I take no pleasure in bloodshed, yet your actions demand it.
You're the young knight who's brought the chaos to this camp.
I really passionately want to tell LGBTQ plus stories. There's lots about the character that I've never had the opportunity to play before.
Please.
What I will say about Aya's bowl cut is, I think it's quite hot and historically accurate.
Liar!
Historically accurate. So back off, haters, haters of the bowl cut.
The games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker.
It is amazing. This might be the softest shirt that I own, and I'm obsessed with all these little kisses. Look at that. You're just kissing me everywhere. You're even kissing my butt.
Hey, she cooking, y'all.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino. The irony, the dark, twisted irony of a game like 1348 Ex Voto, a game about a lesbian knight running around medieval Italy trying to rescue her girlfriend, is that the actual target audience for the game isn't lesbians. The actual target audience are men. Straight men who are into knights and sword fighting and action and adventure and damsels in distress, etc., etc. I can actually see, in a stronger, loving world, and not this woke nightmare, I can actually see this concept clearly inspired by Joan of Arc or Joan Day. A young lesbian in the Middle Ages, dresses like a knight. Dad teaches her swordplay, and suddenly she gets thrown into a situation where she actually has to go on an adventure or a quest. I can see that being interesting and cool. I can imagine a Vertigo series like that with really cool covers. Unfortunately, as a video game by apparently woke activists, you're not going to appeal to anyone with this concept. The lesbian audience doesn't care about video games, and certainly not games about knights. And the male audience, especially these days, is going to be put off by the ugly main character, because it lines up with the whole defeat the male gaze obsession these morons have. At worst, she looks like a girl on TikTok crying in her car because someone misgendered her at work, like at Starbucks or something. And at best, she looks like Will from Stranger Things.
Oh my God! What we got?
We got thin and crispy pizzas only at Ian and Kai's and Stewart and Jensen Beach, Florida. Let's see what we have right now.
Neither is appealing to straight men. By and large, your biggest potential customer base. But that is the problem with woke. This stuff is literally designed to be unappealing to the customer base. And it's crazy because you have devs at these studios crying and crashing out when the games fail. But before they fail, they spend their entire time at the studios deliberately making choices that they know won't be popular with gamers. I saw a tweet on the 1348 Ex Voto Twitter account where somebody was like, "Hey, can you make her better looking?" And the intern or the community manager replied with something like, "Why do you need women to be attractive?" Because it's a visual medium, idiot. This is a video game. You think you're making a game about a lesbian knight in Italy in the 14th century for lesbians on Twitter. But the only people who would actually be interested in the game are men. And if you make a game with ugly women in it, and the character you're playing as might as well be a dude, then there's really no point to it. You already had your so-called modern audience for months. Nobody paid attention to this game before they inserted themselves into the Knight's Path drama. And it was such a scummy thing to do. Don't forget to wishlist and note the release date on your modern agenda. Heart shape emoji. So they quote retweeted one of their earlier tweets promoting their game that nobody was paying attention to. But thanks to the Knight's Path drama, now they have something to get in on.
Gives us the right to say what we want.
Shut
when
the
you think about
fuck
it.
up!
This cynical, weaselly fantagonism, and this shitty attack on a fellow game dev studio. So, Knight's Path is this game that's in development. It's gotten a lot of attention for having a looking like Kingdom Come Deliverance with dragons and giant snails, of all things, which I think looks cool. I'm a huge history buff, and I'm big on knights and armor stories and, with or without fantasy elements in them. Kind of like the ancient Rome thing.
Oh, your boyfriend can't stop thinking about the Roman Empire? That's so cute. Ask your boyfriend, during what years approximately did the Roman Empire rise and fall? How long did it last? What are some influences that the Roman Empire had on American government? What did we get from them? Why is it an empire? What makes it so historically significant? Your boyfriend doesn't know anything about the Roman Empire. Your boyfriend is thinking about the movie Gladiator, and he wishes that he was muscular and covered in oil and wearing armor, and there were girls at his feet who were naked and fanning him with giant leaves. That's what he's thinking about. It's just so funny this shit will make up so that something like dumb and silly that boys do sounds impressive and important and like smart.
Get the fuck out of here.
I don't give a fuck who talk behind my back, 'cause the bitch knew better than to let me hear. Hands on my knees, shaking ass on my thigh shape. Hands on my knees, shaking ass on my thigh shape. Hands on my knees, shaking ass on my thigh shape. Hands on my knees, hands on my knees.
I wouldn't be surprised to learn that after Rome, men think about knights in the Middle Ages the most. But anyway, after the Knight's Path devs showed this babe, who, somebody said this, I forgot who, but somebody said she looks like Melissa Benoist, Supergirl.
So all of these Earths occupy the same place in space, but they vibrate at a different frequency, so they can't see one another.
Yeah, but it's like if you can go fast enough, then it's possible to open like a breach and then travel between worlds.
Yeah.
But how could you travel that fast?
Well,
Yes!
Yeah, so I was struck by lightning the same night a particle accelerator exploded, and I became a superhero.
And she kind of does. She's definitely in that mold, and you've got gay sociopaths and troons losing their shit, calling it porn. A picture of an attractive woman is porn to these lowlives. So anyway, they showed this babe, and again, they showed an attractive woman who's going to be a romance option in their game. And of course, regular like clockwork, some asshole, just like with the first Kingdom Come Deliverance, there was some asshole in the comment of one of their YouTube videos going, "Are we going to be forced to have straight romance options in the game?" Well, some asshole pretty much does the same thing to the Knight's Path devs. "I hope you'll have LGBTQ representation in the game."
Oh man, they were fags. The devs replied to this obvious bait with, "We care about fun, not modern agendas," something like that. And of course, there was a huge backlash. At least one of those, loud minority 12 psychopaths on Twitter type thing. People attacking them for not wanting to pander to people who are never going to play the game. The shitheads at Ex Voto decided to insert themselves into it and rage bait and antagonize gamers while shitting on a fellow gaming studio. And as far as getting attention from the sociopaths online, it worked. But these idiots, if they haven't realized it by now, they're going to learn that likes and retweets on Twitter from blue-haired weirdos and men who think they're women does not translate to sales. Like I always say, the people who are praising you online don't care about your game. They're not gamers. They hate gamers. Their hobby is not gaming. Their hobby is shitting on gamers. The psychos are just happy that the game exists. Ugly lesbian knights, let's go! Own the chuds! In their minds, the game just existing is hurting gamers. Like gamers are being, psychically damaged by the sight of an ugly lesbian knight and her weird-looking girlfriend. I said this in my last video, talking about Joshi Poo, one of the High Guard devs, acting like and talking about how negative comments, quote-unquote, attacking the game is why it failed, because gamers are just a mindless zombie horde that just follow the approved opinion. But that's not our side, as it were. That's their side. I don't care if people don't like, I don't know, like say Expedition 33 or Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm not going to have a fit and call them Nazis if they don't agree with me. If you don't like Horizon Zero Dawn, you're a misogynist.
Oh, fuck.
Ouchie.
I thought about downloading the demo for 1348 Ex Voto, but after I saw a few videos on YouTube, I decided against it. It's just not interesting, and I can't take it seriously. You have this 16-year-old girl in armor in the Middle Ages fighting grown men who somehow she's just as tall as. Again, with this weird men and women are the same height bullshit. It's a video game, so if they did it right, you could get most people to suspend their disbelief. But of course, the devs didn't want to do that. They're activists. They don't want to acknowledge the difference between men and women, even though they'll likely spend a lot of time in the story talking about how tough women have it in the world and under patriarchy. But in a gameplay sense, they don't want to show that she's smaller than the man or physically weaker. In the demo, she's just running around slicing men up like it's nothing. Men in armor. It's absurd. You almost shouldn't make a game like this. And I don't mean that, don't make a game about lesbians or make a game about women fighting men. It's, at least they're making their own original idea, their own original concept, quote unquote original, a lesbian version of Joan Day or whatever. But the thing is, if your budget isn't good enough to make the gameplay and action better, and if you can't get people to suspend disbelief, I feel like the best way to make a game like this, if you can't technically make the action better or whatever, or make it convincing, is to make a visual novel in the style of something like Pentiment. It seems like, I don't know if this is going to be the case, it seems like the story of this game, 1348 Ex Voto, is where they really are putting their attention in. And it could be good. I thought that the opening of the demo with the two ladies talking or whatever seemed like, okay, maybe that might be good. But the action is not going to bring you to a place where you care about the story. At least that's the way I see it. But if you do make it a visual novel, I don't think that they have the talent to make it look like Pentiment, to do it in that style. I think there are certain little touches I saw in the demo, like the skill tree, that had a nice aesthetic. I thought in the trailer there was some good environment aesthetics, the landscape, the buildings, that kind of stuff. That stuff looked pretty good. It looked okay. But the gameplay looked so boring. And the entire time you're just thinking this is supposed to be a teenage girl. And she's fighting these dudes like it's nothing. And these idiots don't even seem to care that they're fighting this girl. I know the actress who plays the main character says,
Ayata, she's slightly genderqueer in that, like, people mistake her for being a boy and a man, and she's like, yeah, great.
What?
Oh, yeah.
but really, there's really nothing that they can do. I mean, they're going to do this action game. They want her to be a knight, so this is what they came up with. Story-wise, to try to come up with a way to show why she's able to fight these men in armor like this, I think I would have her maybe lose a fight in the beginning. Her girlfriend gets stolen, kidnapped. She wakes up after having been knocked out and left for dead or something like that. Or maybe some traveling merchant dude comes along, nurses her back to health, or when she's traveling on her way to find her girlfriend, she bumps into him and he's an alchemist. Actually, I think there's a character like that in A Plague's Tale. And see, that's the thing. So A Plague's Tale, you have this attractive young woman, this attractive girl, right, with a little slingshot beating up on dudes bigger than her. And I think she gets some other little weapons, but the main thing is her trusty slingshot. And she's not in armor, and again, she's attractive. She's not a lesbian. I don't know what's going on in the sequel yet. I haven't played it, but I really enjoyed A Plague's Tale and what they did with that time period. And making a female lead who's convincing and you find appealing and you follow her story and the story of her little brother who was annoying as shit for most of the time. But anyway, this merchant alchemist type dude who, like I said, I do think there was a character like this in A Plague's Tale. I can't remember. But he gives Iodita, whatever her name is, in 1348, he gives her some special potions, or it could be panacea. We find out later at the end of the game or something. And actually, I'll say, I gave you these special potions that, will give you strength as a man. And each time Like, she goes on her way. She gets these potions from this dude and she goes off having adventures, trying to find her girl. Every once in a while, she bumps into the merchant dude or whatever, and he gives her different potions that, is a new upgrade to her skills. Or maybe he just gives her a special sword, or he just gives her the sword that says, yeah, this is a special sword. It was, wielded by King Arthur or some crap, right? Excalibur, something like that. And it gives her the strength and power to be able to fight these dudes twice her size, and, she can do all this, whatever. The thing is, I don't know even if you came up with this concept to suspend disbelief, it doesn't seem like, looking at the demo, and like I said, I didn't play the demo, I just wasn't interested. It doesn't seem like they were capable of making the action any better anyway. Even if you said, well, we're going to come up with a mystical or even a psychological reason why she's able to do this, fight men in armor and cut them down and all this stuff. But I don't think technically that these are the devs that would have been able to pull something like that off anyway. Again, it's fine that they made their own game about a lesbian knight, and if they want to do it this way, fine. The demo numbers are terrible, though, despite the so-called 100,000 wish lists, which I don't believe that they actually received. I don't even believe that there's that many woke idiots with Steam accounts. I really don't think it's going to sell well at all. It's not appealing. These idiots will never leer. And at a certain point, some of these people will have to stop and think, even if this is a low-budget indie game that's being secretly propped up by Sony or somebody, if all they're doing is just making a game about an ugly lesbian dressed up like a knight in medieval Italy to own the chuds, instead of just making her attractive and selling your game, and when I say attractive, I just mean attractive. She doesn't have to look like Eve from Stellar Blade. Just make her attractive. This will help you sell your game. This will help you get people to look at your game. Even though it's about a lesbian, people are going to still say, well, at least you're not shoving down this absurd, defeat the male gaze, idiotic agenda down our throats as if you're hurting us by doing this. We just won't spend money on your game if you decide that, no, I'm going to make this character ugly. If you don't like me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, even though your best is nothing. You get this boring gameplay and this ugly little character running around, and nobody, including the people you supposedly made it for, are interested in it. At that point, you're spending money for nothing. You're spending money to rage bait when it's cheaper to just tweet rage bait. And the irony is, the dark irony to your attempts at rage bait, if that's what this is that the chuds are not even mad. We're just laughing at you.
Let's add these shallots, season with salt and pepper, and then stir for the next 2 minutes. Now let's add Worcestershire. Okay, now we are going to add Worcestershire sauce to the pan, and then stir for another 2 minutes.
Hey, she cooking, y'all.